Welcome to the NVUSD Future in Focus podcast. Can you take us back to the moment where you decided to become an educator?
I wanted to become the teacher that I didn't have at that time.
What is one thing about your daily work that you wish the general public just understood better?
What I would love for the public to understand is that teachers have this mental load. We have a very complex job because we're not just imparting information.
What is one element of today's traditional schooling that you would keep, and what's one that you would change?
Welcome to the NVUSD Future in Focus podcast, where we explore what it takes to cultivate a confident, compassionate, and adaptable graduate here in Napa Valley. I'm Dr. Rosanna Mucetti, Superintendent of the Napa Valley Unified School District.
And I'm Dr. Peter Abboud, Executive Director of Research, Data, and Assessment. In this series, we amplify student and staff voices, strengthen community connections, and spotlight strong teaching and learning across all of our schools, all through the lens of being and becoming future ready.
Today, we are joined by someone who lives that mission every single day in the classroom. Yara is a dedicated Spanish dual language immersion teacher here in NVUSD, and we've invited her to pull back the curtain on the classroom experience. Yara, bienvenida and welcome.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Dr. Mucetti, for having me here. And I feel so honored, Dr. Abboud, to be here and unveil that curtain.
It's so exciting. We're so excited to have you. So let's start, Yara, with the why, okay? Can you take us back to the moment where you decided to become an educator? What keeps you grounded in the classroom today?
Right. When I think about this question, there wasn't a specific moment. I feel that it was like a accumulation of factors. My journey as a learner, a mentor believing in me and my potential to teach. And there also, in my former district and my other community, there was a need for Spanish and bilingual teachers. So when I think of the why, I think about, I have to give you a little glimpse of my story. So I'm from Ecuador, and I was raised in a private bilingual school, Catholic private bilingual school. So when I think about that, I was that student that it did not fit the profile of that time. And I feel that sometimes even in South America, it is road to memorization, learn this, not question, repeat, and just kind of the programming went like that. But I feel that for me, I wasn't that a student. I like to ask questions. I was curious. I wanted to collaborate. And unfortunately, I did not fit for my teachers. I did not fit that profile. And I really created true challenges for them. So having that in mind, I was what I'm going to choose as for a profession, and having that mentor that believed in me and knowing that need for my community, I was like, I really want to create that in my classroom. I wanted to become the teacher that I didn't have at that time. So I wanted to be that person that will walk into public education really thinking that the classroom is the greatest equalizer. Doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter where you come from, your experiences, you get to face a teacher on a daily basis that truly believes in you. And I wanted to be that teacher. And I wanted to make sure that I started my day with the heart, because to be able to teach and to do all of those things, that you want to make sure that the students knew that you were there and you were there to kind of spark their interest. So for me, that was my why. I wanted to create that, level the playing field, that for everybody that walked into my classroom, that they could find confidence and that they would know that there was someone there to facilitate their learning, but with this true trust and honesty that we can do it together as a team. So I think that was it. And what keeps me grounded especially is that in the classroom, especially in a dual immersion classroom, you see those students taking a risk and making mistakes, and seeing those mistakes not as this thing that is going to prevent them to learn, but bridge to understanding. So I feel that keeps me grounded, being able to be like, oh my, you're believing in yourself. You're getting inspired. You truly feel confident. And I feel that a space where we can ask questions, feel safe, just became my mission. And I feel that that's my why. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Why?
Yeah, and that classroom culture is so important, in order for
truly
students to
is.
really learn and
Yes.
to feel confident in themselves. That's really great. As a practitioner in the current educational climate, what is one thing about your daily work that you wish the general public just understood better? People don't always know what it's like to be a teacher. And what do you wish they would understand better, specifically about the dual language immersion program?
That is such a timely question. I feel that what I would love for the public to understand is that teachers have this mental load that they carry, because it's an orchestration, not just of, I need to accomplish, I need to impart my lesson and plan for my lesson. It's like an orchestration of needs and those little ones that you have in your classroom. So I feel that I wish that the public understand like the mental load, what it truly requires. And specifically for dual immersion teachers, we have a very complex job, because we're not just imparting information, or I am teaching you math and reading. I'm doing that in a second language for some of my students, and I'm doing that in the first language for some of, just kind of based on my classroom. But what I think it is important for them to understand is that complexity requires for a teacher to truly be knowledgeable, to carry that knowledge, and then to also be a mediator, facilitator, making sure that those students feel safe in the classroom. And then if you think about that, it's not just that, it also kind of comes down to the point of, now you have to really help parents, students understand, specific in a dual immersion class, what it takes to acquire a second language and what it takes to be a bilingual student in the classroom who has a cognitive load, who is learning all of these skills, but then also they need to learn to communicate, and that things don't just happen rapidly. It takes 10 to 14 years to be feeling like a native speaker in a second language. So I feel that I wish that they will know that that we're humans that carry knowledge, but also that carry a really big heart for those students, that we want them to feel seen and safe. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many roles in
So
the
many.
classroom. There's such complexity to the teaching and learning that you have to plan, design, implement, and address all those diverse needs, whether they're the academic needs or the linguistic needs of the students. So
true.
you have to be masterful at what you do. It is so much work. One of our biggest priorities, I think this is true in a lot of school districts, is literacy.
Yes.
We know students, leaving their primary education, reading on grade level is absolutely critical to their long-term academic success.
For sure.
It's a priority for us here in the school district. So I'd love to do a little bit of a literacy deep dive with you and
definitely.
hear your sort of professional expertise from the classroom perspective.
Yeah, I think that for multilingual learners, the dual immersion classroom, I think is where the magic happens. But one of the things that I have had to do and reflect on my practice is where I came from, what I used to know, what I know now. So to take you back a little bit is that there's like this two schools of thought almost in literacy. There's balanced literacy, where we want to make sure that students are using context clues, just a little bit of that language, and teachers engaging the students in that independent reading, shared reading. But I think the research now is truly based on science. And I think that where my practice has shifted is to use that research, to use the body of research that kind of is specific, as what we call it now, the science of reading.
Correct.
When we think about that, it's more like a shift to structured literacy, where we are being very explicit at the type of phonics instruction that we're providing to the students. When we think of science of reading, it's understanding that science doesn't come natural. It is a very complex process, and that we have to be very specific of how we teach students to navigate the complexity of that process. So I think that the shifts that I have throughout my career has been to how I can be specific, how can my literacy instruction be cumulative, meaning how do I take what the students know and bring to make sure that step by step, very systematically, I'm teaching them what they need to continue to gain access to those skills that will help them be readers, intentional and true readers. So one of the things that it has really helped me too is that NVUSD provides and supports that. They're supporting and encouraging teachers to use the science through letters. So the last 2 years, I engage in this cohort and kind of really learning the complexity of literacy and learning the complexity of what it looks like in the classroom. So when I think about it, is the shifts that I have made is being very explicit. And when it comes down to dual immersion education, we cannot teach English and Spanish as silos. So I have to use that research to say, what is specific about Spanish that I can help my students really understand to crack the code and to become readers who recognize those words, who understand the parts of the words. But then what are some of the things that we can leverage between two languages? Because there's where cross-linguistic transfer happens. So we think about, okay, there's a bilingual student. He is a Spanish speaker. They're learning instruction in Spanish. I teach literacy instruction in Spanish. But then I have to help them make connections of what they know. So just a simple example. We think about consonant sounds. The majority of consonant sounds sound the same in English as they do in Spanish. But there are some specific consonants that English does not have it. And then some sounds that they change. So helping my students see those differences are really important. I also use very specific instructional practices like the bridge. So the bridge is not when just kind of thinking, like, I'm going to transfer information from one side to the other. I have to explicitly and systematically teach what can be transferred and what can we help our bilingual brains make that connection. So just kind of thinking about the bridge is the instruction practice where we set time aside and we help the students kind of think about through cognates, this idea of when we look at our work and we say conexión and connection, like, what do you know about this word? What is true to each language? How do we can help? Well, if I know that particular either affix or like that particular part of the word, how can that transfer to Spanish or to English? And how can I know more words based on that? Conexión, programación, like there's just like so many other things that the students can know. So I think that for me, making it systematic and making it cumulative, but also data-driven, I think that we need to kind of understand that when you're teaching literacy, you're at every moment acquiring information from your students. You are being explicit of patterns because in a way too, what is amazing is that there is, in the science of reading, there's this understanding that you have to weave in almost many strands of it. And I don't want to chop his name, but it's Scarborough's rope. And it really kind of helps us about like word recognition and just kind of comprehension, like and what that look like. One is like phonology, making sure that the students understand the coding. And the other one is that they understand the structures of language, syntax, semantics, making sure that they are acquiring background knowledge to it. So how do we weave those two things in? It has to be in a very structured and systematic way. And I feel that this approach where we used to left the kids being like, oh, you know, see the page. What do you think? What word do you think it goes? It just, I feel, especially in Spanish, it's so decodable. It just doesn't go in that way.
Right.
Instead, we need to teach them, here is what you look at. This is how you break the word into parts. This is the part of the word that you need to know the meaning. And then when you as a teacher start having clarity of what you're doing in the classroom, the purpose, the students are starting to like jump into it as well.
It's easier for them.
It is so
right?
much easier.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier as well to kind of differentiate and target that instruction for them. So I feel that not just in the dual immersion classroom, but even in the traditional classroom, you have to have a level of understanding and the complexities of what it requires to learn how to read.
Yeah.
So that process has been important for me.
It's, you know, I thank you so much for your professional expertise and sharing about the complexity. Before we jump to numeracy, just for our listeners to kind of understand,
definitely.
it sounds like the impact of the letters training. It's a 2-year professional development program. The district's made substantial investments in that because we know literacy is key to academic success for all of our students. And it sounds like your biggest walkaways from the 2-year training is the importance of explicit, targeted, and systematic literacy instruction.
Definitely.
This idea that students can kind of learn things through osmosis leaves a lot of gaps for a lot of students. And we want to make sure that students are leaving, especially the primary years and elementary, want to make sure that their literacy gaps are closed. And it sounds like you've witnessed that they're really benefiting
Definitely.
from that explicit systematic instruction. So we're excited. I'm sure you know this, it's been a few years now. We've had cohorts of anywhere from 40 to 50 elementary
Yes,
teachers.
I know. It's been amazing.
So it's really, really spreading in the district. We have hundreds of teachers trained, and we really do think we're going to see the benefits in literacy levels.
And just to kind of add, like, what is so important, I teach at Pueblo Vista Elementary School, and to see the majority of our teachers are doing that training, so we collaborate a lot, and it's kind of the basis of what we do in Pueblo Vista. But when you see K through second teachers using the same language around how we describe students, what students need, and really understand the depthness of the skills that they have to learn, it's magical. Like, I feel that it has been one of the best things
That's great.
that has happened for teachers of this district. And thank you so much for providing that opportunity.
Oh, no, we're excited. We're excited to continue to see the results of that investment.
And I know this won't be a surprise to you, but as the person who oversees the data services department, we look at student achievement results of students who have teachers who have gone through letters training, and we see much better results for those students. So thank you for being part of that cohort and doing this important work, because it's working. It's working. It's very exciting to see that. So let's go ahead and switch to this to numeracy. So we've talked about literacy, but let's talk about numeracy. We have many students, even adults, who struggle with math anxiety. Sometimes there's mindsets around I'm not good at math, or whatever. People are kind of thinking about that for themselves. How do you create a classroom culture where mathematical thinking is accessible and enjoyable and joyful and things that just kids love to do?
So first, I have to recognize that I was one of those kids. Like, I to be honest, in my experience, I was very fearful of math. I experienced anxiety through math, because for the type of teaching that I received, there was the correct answer. The way to get to the correct answer, you better get to the correct answer, is it? So I think that for me, when I start kind of thinking about, like, how am I going to create a safe environment where mistakes are allowed and where math can be enjoyed?
It's part of the learning, right?
I had to reflect as a learner and then as a practitioner. So I was very fortunate in my former district. I worked very closely with a math coach, and she introduced me to Joe Buller. Joe Buller, I think that for me, kind of reinforced that there's not a teaching brain. And I was just like, because sometimes people describe and be like, well, your student has a mathematical brain and your student. No, I think that for me, what I really love of her is that she encourages us as practitioners to kind of think about mathematics in a different way, to kind of shift that mindset where we are going to provide students our opportunity with open-ended tasks that are rich, that empower students to have mathematical discourse, where you can see a problem and have different entry points for that, and everybody could access that. So I think through her teaching and kind of being able to collaborate, I was able to really understand math in a way. For me, I was like, oh my gosh, I understand fractions. Like, believe me, as a practitioner myself. So I was able to just kind of think about, like, what are the parts and components that are going to exist in my classrooms, and that way we don't create an environment where math is this place where I have to get to the correct answer, and my teacher taught me this is strategy and this is the one that I have to do. But just moving from the fluency and being accurate, which is very important in math, but it also kind of allowing for those conversations and that growth mindset to exist. So just to kind of give you an example, in my class, I use, and Bridges provides this too, which I was like really excited.
Our elementary math curriculum.
Our elementary math curriculum is specifically the new Bridges, the new version of Bridges. Now they just created like the number talks, and there's number strings. So in my classroom, how I make sure that there's not that math anxiety, I present every concept as something that we are going to tackle together. And there I present every skill as something that the students can have an entry point to it, no matter your level of skills, because I feel that with my understanding of how our growth mindset, especially a mathematical mindset, gets to be reinforced and nurtured, is making sure that those students who are still struggling with math can have an access to the math task that is in front of them. But those students that already have the concept that have mastered it, they can continue to expand on it. So I feel that by using those number talks and allowing us to just kind of be more explicit in the type of instruction that we have with our students, and making sure that the students, every time that we see a mistake, I said to them, "Oh my gosh, can I please use your mistakes in the way everybody can learn?" Helps the student lower that anxiety filter for them, that affective filter, and helps the students be like, "Yes, can we learn from my mistake?" Because you're not just teaching
celebrating
them
the
that.
learning
Yeah,
and the
you're
culture,
teaching them
yeah.
to advocate for their learning. You're being very intentional in their practice and the way the students can understand it specifically. Oh, I am learning about this skill, and it's okay that I don't know that yet. I will have many opportunities. My teacher's going to provide many opportunities for me to get to the I know now what I'm doing. So I feel that how I have take down this, I don't know, this idea of the fear of math has been of tackling something as a team, making sure that we know what we don't know, is that we know what we know, but we also have to kind of acknowledge what we don't know. And based on that, I am not sure of that yet. Can I ask questions? Can I work collaboratively with a peer? Can I advocate when I need help? Has allowed me to kind of make sure that math is not this place where there's correct answers. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the answer. We're just gonna have to work together, and we're kind of have to present that in a way each time that we're learning something. What do I understand, and what else do I need to understand next? So it's just creating accountable talk too through it.
Yeah,
So,
thanks,
yeah,
Yara,
thanks.
for all of that insight on how you're navigating math instruction in the classroom. I love the idea of making math joyful, but it also sounds like you're really conscious of the importance of balancing, conceptual learning around
Yes.
math, while also making sure that they also get explicit procedural learning around math, and then allowing this growth mindset so that students feel safe
Definitely.
as they make mistakes and learn. Can you quickly just give us one last concrete example, maybe a specific lesson or a unit where you took a risk with a new strategy?
Yes.
What did you learn from that experience, regardless of the outcome?
So another thing that the NVUSD is doing a fantastic job is that now we have HIT, which is the High Instructional Impact Team. I am part of that team myself. And when I think of math, what I know, what I learned from Joe Bowler, my experience teaching math, to what this district is providing for me, I have been trying to really use gradual release of responsibility in a way that is intentional and impactful. So one new strategy that and it's not new, but I think that the way that I have to look at it is with a new lens. So it comes down to like the explicit instruction and providing students not just one way to, so you can, when you're in my classroom, you will see students observing how I model a specific strategy, a specific concept. We model twice, and they are just like, they trust me that the first modeling, they have to look at it. They have to understand, because the gradual release of responsibility where I do, and I'm going to show you how we're going to get to understand this, it has become very explicit. So for me, in order to be very explicit and to know what I'm teaching, I have to have clarity. So the High Instructional Impact Team has brought up this it's very important that we understand, yes, our program, yes, what Bridges is trying to do, but do you understand this standard? Do you understand the implications and the depthness of this standard? Do I understand that when you're showing them this strategy, do they know how to get to point A and B? Can you create a success criteria around that? Can the students look at the success criteria through your modeling of that specific concept and be like, oh yes, I saw my teacher doing that once, I saw my teacher doing that twice, and you walk them through that. So I feel that for me, when I think about what it has been successful and something that I've been trying to do is make sure that when I'm teaching math, I'm being more intentional. I bring clarity to my students, and I am doing it through that 3-step modeling that happens in the classroom, where the students first watch the teacher. The second time they watch the teacher again, but they kind of ask some questions, and then you start noticing the students want to collaborate and share with you. But the third time, you walk them into an actual conversation where they sit down with the language partners, and they're like, okay, tell your partner what you learned from this strategy. And then you guide them with very specific sentence frames do get to that point where it's like, first I did this and the teacher did that, and then it's how I get to the answer. So I feel for me it's not just about teaching and looking at the curriculum. I don't think I ever really did that. I always was, what's the standard? What's the resource, the program that I'm using can help me get there? What do I know about math? And now with the high instructional impact team is, how can I make sure that I use this framework that seems to really help the students? And what I just shared with you is like one practice that we do. We also use another one that is called it's just kind of like the to and through what I'm going to learn and through what am I going to be using to learn that specific skill. So I feel that there's so many things that right now I'm using in the classroom thanks to the support that I have had in NVUSD.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're taking advantage of another professional
Yes.
development opportunity that's here in the
Definitely.
district with the high impact instructional team, another cohort of teachers that we're working with and collaborating with to establish an instructional framework that gets systematized across the district.
It really has.
And I love to hear that explicit modeling has really kind of surfaced as something that we need to kind of lean into and use more consistently in the classroom in order to ensure student success.
Yeah, great.
Definitely.
Thank you for that, Yara. So beyond the test scores, which continue to be really strong at Pueblo Vista, among many schools in our district, exceeding just beyond the numerical test scores that sometimes people think about.
I really love this question because sometimes we look at students through that numeric, are you making progress? Are you not? But I feel that the quiet wins. When I think about it in my classroom, I wanted to build a safe space for students to share their thinking. And it's actually a requirement in my classroom that if we are learners, if we're true learners, we're here to be active participants. So the quiet wins is when I see that a student that it's in the carpet, she's listening or he's listening, super well behaved, but zero voice. And when I start seeing them raising their hand and actually sharing their thinking and questioning me and just making sure that they're advocating for themselves, those are the quiet wins. And also that a student that kind of goes from first grade to second grade, almost like first grade, they're young, so they hold their hands. And then in second grade, they almost like hit my classroom where they're like, what, do I have to do this on my own? And I feel that constant conversation with me to say like, yes, this is the expectations. I'm going to be here to help you, but first you have to help yourself. And when you see them starting to help themselves, taking that pencil, reading that question, and even saying to themselves like, I can do this. Those are my great wins.
So exciting,
That's
right?
wins.
To see them emerge with their independence and their confidence in the classroom. Thanks for
Definitely.
helping them get there. From your vantage point in the classroom, what is one district support or resource that has truly moved the needle for students? If you were to quickly summarize.
So I think that for me, is the things that I have mentioned. One, letters with very explicit systematic instruction and making sure that we're creating the structure that is going to allow students to learn the concept, practice the concept, and making sure that they receive targeted instruction during, I use instruction in small groups. And also HIT. I feel that when I've been using not just, right now we're diving into the high instructional team with a framework of gradual release of responsibility in math, but I've been using that a lot too in literacy. And I feel that the intentionality that comes to that clarity that you have as a teacher and the clarity that you bring to your students, for them to see like, okay, here's our goal, this is what we need to get to, and this is the success criteria that is going to kind of allow us to check back every time to see whether we're achieving that. It's just been really great. And also too, I feel that it has helped me, those two things, be honest with my students and say, here's your goal. This is areas that you're doing really, really a good job. This is another areas that we're going to have to write down a little goal and a meta for you to get there. And just to see them and be like, oh my, I am doing, like, when they look at the success criteria, they're like, yes, we're doing that. Yes, I'm doing that. And looking at their work and being like, I am getting there. That has been for me two things that has definitely helped me.
That's great. I'm so glad you're seeing their self-awareness
Yeah.
about their learning and where their areas of growth are. We've heard a lot about the positive impact of the letters training, which we've talked about over the last half hour or so. And then the second professional development experience that you described, the high impact instructional team. These are all cohorts of teachers that are investing time to become better practitioners. And thank you so much, Yara, for taking advantage of that.
Well, thank you.
We really do feel like they are having a positive impact on our students' learning. I think we're going to continue to see the progress as we move more teachers through the professional development experiences. Your feedback during this session and your insights have been really validating.
Your classroom sounds really exciting. I want to come visit, actually. Can I come check it out next week when you come back?
I've been there.
I want to check it out. It
Exciting
sounds a
place.
lot of fun.
Productive struggle is real in the class, but we know a way to get there.
Yeah, totally. No, I love it. I really do want to come visit you now. But finally, let's take a look ahead. If you could design the classroom of 2030, what is one element of today's traditional schooling that you would keep, and what's one that you would change?
I think the one that I will keep is human connections. There's no technology or AI that can replace that. I feel that that sense of belonging has to come from the fact that we're creating a community. So I hope that I want to keep. Change. When I think about it, it's 2030, it's like 4 years from now, is it? So I think that sometimes change takes time. But here's what I will say. I know that academic rigor is really important, and having kids being proficient at the skills and feeling proficient, it's very, very important. But I hope that we continue to balance a little bit with how important is play, and especially elementary, like how important it is, like physical play, connecting to the outdoors. So I feel that my hope is that we continue to, yes, have a really good instruction, intentional instruction, students learning. But I feel that my hope is that we can continue to weave in opportunities to be in the outdoors and connect. I hope for that.
Connection is so important. So Yara, thank you for your honesty, your expertise, and most of all, everything that you do to positively impact the students of Napa Valley and NVUSD. It's just been incredible to hear from you. We wanted to use the podcast platform to really dive in with some of our practitioners in the field that we know are doing incredible work impacting the educational outcomes of our students. So thank you for being a guest and being a practitioner expert.
Yeah, and a big thank you to our listeners. To all those families listening, check out the NVUSD website for more information.
Again, that website is nvusd.org.
Until next time, keep being
future ready.